Okay, let's dive in. We're going to break down the litigation strategy for a multi-million-pound civil rights case, looking at how you build a powerful legal argument, really from the ground up.
That quote, it's the central claim at the very heart of this case. So in this explainer, we're going to dissect the legal strategy designed to prove it and show you exactly how a case gets built from such a catastrophic series of events. So here's our roadmap. We'll start by framing the case as a system-turned-weapon. Then we'll pinpoint the strongest legal roots. After that, we'll outline the discrimination strategy, take a hard look at the chances of success, and then wrap up with the most critical missing documents needed to prove the whole thing. All right, first things first. We have to understand the premise of the entire case. And that means seeing it not as a bunch of separate, unlucky incidents, but as one single connected chain of harm. This approach is absolutely crucial. It shifts the whole narrative away from, oh, a few mistakes were made here and there, to a systemic, multi-agency failure. The goal is to show how each action predictably triggered the next, creating this awful cascade of harm. You can really see the domino effect in action on this timeline. The strategy argues that this coordinated targeting in these multi-agency meetings, they're called CHRMM meetings, that's what directly caused the eviction. That eviction, in turn, led to homelessness and the SALT, which then caused permanent disability. Legally speaking, connecting every single link in this chain is essential for proving causation and, of course, for justifying a much higher claim for damages. So, you've got this chain of events. How do you actually translate that into a legal argument? Well, you start by building the case pillar by pillar, beginning with the strongest claims you've got, in this case, procedural unfairness. And what does that mean exactly? Well, the crucial point here isn't just about the outcome. It's about whether the path to get there was lawful and fair. Was the game rigged from the start? That's really the core question. Now, these cases you see here aren't just some dusty old legal theories. They're the very bedrock of the argument that the entire eviction process was unlawful from the get-go. They established these really clear lines that were allegedly crossed, denying legal help, relying on what was basically gossip as fact, and misusing private data. And this is perhaps the most serious procedural allegation of all, witness tampering. The claim is that the defense's key witness was strategically detained to stop her from testifying. Now, that isn't just some error. It's a profound subversion of the rule of law. It's a cornerstone of the argument for malice. But it goes beyond just procedural failures. The strategy also has to tackle how the system allegedly weaponized the very vulnerabilities it was supposed to protect. And this is where the case moves beyond simple negligence and into the realm of active, targeted discrimination. The argument is that Joseph Janes's protected characteristics, being a veteran with PTSD and a trans individual, were actually used as a justification for punitive action, instead of a reason for safeguarding. I mean, look at this. This slide just shows the stark contrast between the duty of care and what allegedly happened. A request for medical help during a mental health crisis was met, not with paramedics, but with an armed police response that's escalating the situation, not de-escalating it. So by highlighting the use of biased language in official reports and the failure to make basic safety repairs, the strategy really aims to show a pattern of behavior that looks malicious and discriminatory under the Equality Act. It paints a picture where vulnerability wasn't protected, but was actually exploited. Okay, let's be realistic for a moment. A successful strategy has to be you've got to separate your strongest arguments from the weaker ones to manage expectations and, of course, focus your resources. So the total claim is targeting a multi-million-pound valuation. Now, this isn't some arbitrary number. It's based on the compounded, life-altering harm that allegedly followed from those initial actions. This chart gives us a pretty clear, data-driven assessment of where the case is strongest. You can see the unlawful eviction and the data breach claims have the highest probability of success. Why? Well, it's mainly because the legal duties for landlords and data controllers are really clearly defined, which makes breaches easier to prove. So, yeah, that's the crucial point. The strategy is to lead with the strongest claims to build momentum for the entire case. A win on the unlawful eviction front, for instance, really strengthens the narrative that all the harm that followed flowed from that one initial wrongful act. All right, finally, a strategy is only as good as the evidence that backs it up. So the next critical step is securing the documents needed to prove everything we've just talked about. This is all about turning allegations into undeniable, documented facts. You see, the paper trail held by these institutions is the key to unlocking the full story. In this checklist, this basically transforms our explainer from just a summary into an actual tool. Each and every item is targeted to prove a specific part of the case, from the coordination in those CHRM meetings to the officer's state of mind in their own notes, to the critical communications about the witness detention. This is the evidence that can win the case. Ultimately, this case forces all of us to ask that really difficult question, and the answer, whatever it turns out to be, has profound implications for the rule of law, for institutional accountability, and for the trust we place in those who are meant to protect us.